works? Is it reliable? What do we know? What do they know?
So we're back, another episode of the Bro Code. You guys know why we're here. About to get into it. Today's topic will be a little controversial, but I think it's something we got to talk about. So we're going to discuss gender roles. Who wants to start? Right, I thought. Just like I thought. All right. So I'll go ahead and start it off.
All right.
When thinking about marriage, would you prefer to be in a modern or a traditional marriage? A modern or traditional marriage? So let me re-ask that question. Sorry. So when thinking about gender roles, would you prefer to be in a modern or traditional marriage style based on gender roles, how we now see them?
Go ahead. That's all I need to
Wow. I mean, okay, traditionally speaking, I think the only thing I would really see use for now is the submissiveness that women used to have, in my opinion, in traditional roles. But modernly speaking, I feel like a household can't survive on traditional principles now. If that makes sense. I feel like we may need to change our routes of being. For example, I'm not, blowing a gasket about my wife working at all. I guess that would be considered modern versus traditional now, right?
No, traditionally, you would not want your wife to work.
Right.
Correct.
So modern.
Modern.
Would be
You
my
would
wife working.
want your wife to work.
Yeah.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying I wouldn't mind my wife working, so I guess that puts me on the modern scale. And I think that's the biggest difference between modern and traditional. But
So you wouldn't mind?
I wouldn't mind my wife working.
Now, if she decides not to work, do you mind that?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't at all. But going back to the traditional standpoint, I think the only thing I would really need from the traditional values is the submission. I feel like that's a big part of a relationship. Not just from woman to man, but also from husband to wife. I feel like,
Okay. I think that's good. I mean, y'all mighty quiet over there, so
mighty quiet.
Well,
definitely want to hear what y'all got to say.
Tradition or modern?
well, honestly, like my whole life, I felt like I wanted modern. I'm gonna make money. She's not just gonna sit there and use my money. But as I got older, me being an entrepreneur, me always being busy, me always being out, I realized the value of having someone who can, make sure my food is prepped and make sure my schedule is in order, make sure I'm organized. Those are my biggest weaknesses. And so if I have a traditional woman who's, grinding like me, then we come home to a dirty house, we come home to fast food every night, then, that could be a potential problem. So I really feel like I'm leaning more towards the traditional based on my lifestyle. And I also realized the value of having someone in the house, because if a man works 8 hours a day, a woman works 8 hours a day, you pick up your kids from school, by the time y'all get settled, do homework or whatever, you have 2-3 hours with your kids while the world is raising your kids for 8 hours a day.
Right.
And so I really, me being a basketball coach and seeing, some of these kids in the community who are messed up, I feel, most people cannot stay home to raise their, kids in the household. But if they can, I believe, some of these children would be in much better positions for the overall family structure by having someone in the house, especially in those earlier years.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think for me, I lean a little bit more towards modern. But I'm like, let's say I'm this young, tender age of 33. And so right now, if I was getting married in like a year from now, I believe king and queen, we should hustle together. We should both be working. We should both be bringing in money. We should both be taking care of the kids. It's a boss thing that I feel like needs to happen on both levels. But let's say when she gets pregnant or gets sick or 10, 20 years from now, oh yeah, I'm gonna make sure I take care of us. We're good. I don't want you, to feel overwhelmed or burned out. But right now, if I were to get married so young, we're not so young anymore, but in a year or so, I'm like, no, I feel that we both should be working, we both should be cooking, we both should be working hard to provide for our household.
Okay. I think we forget the value. Yes, money is very valuable. I think sometimes we forget the value that is not financial.
Right.
The
value and stability.
Yeah, stability and
The value and support. Yeah.
keeping that good, strong family structure.
With you saying it's not all financial, do you guys think modern women nowadays are a lot more money hungry than women of older generations? I mean, seeking that their man gotta make 6 figures, nothing less. You gotta have 2 houses in 2 different states across the country. You have to have 3 cars. You have to have 1 for me, just me. You know what I mean?
You must have been watching Kevin Samuels.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I think nowadays, because people are money hungry,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of men that do have those things. So
Right.
it becomes like, if there's men out there that have them, why don't I want them? Right? Just like women. Like, there's women out there that do these things, that are entrepreneur, that are doing great in their careers, making a lot of money, and they're still, normal women. Why can't I have them? I think that's the question, right?
Mhm.
And as in the past, we didn't see it as much. Social media has made it more, prevalent, where you can see a woman doing great things. So it's not as traditional. You may not want the traditional wife now, because there's other things out there that you see you can have. So I think, to answer your question, because it has become seen, right, regularly through social media and TV, etc., people are starting to say, I want that, not this, because this isn't, I want that lifestyle, like, not this, like, I already experienced this with my parents, like, I want something different. So, I don't know, it could be interesting, for sure.
With that, how does gender roles play in like households? Like, how does the child become affected by family dynamics?
I mean, I think it has it plays a huge role in the household, because generally speaking, the woman and traditionally has been home the most to help raise the children. So I think that has an effect. Who's literally raising the children?
Is that a negative effect or a positive
It
effect?
depends how you're raising the child,
Okay.
right? Like, who's teaching a man to be a man?
Mhm.
Who's teaching a woman to be a woman, right? I think those things matter, and I think they have a lot to do with how our culture is today.
I'm glad you said like that. To be a man and to be a woman is to be taught. It's not what we have in between our legs.
Oh, so you gotta explain.
You said it.
I'm just saying.
I just broke it apart. I got out the little pieces.
I'm
You
just
said,
curious.
who's teaching a man to be a man and who's teaching a woman to be a woman?
So we're right back to gender roles, right?
Right.
It's a good question.
Who's doing the teaching?
It's a great question. I think I'll catch it on the next segment.
So, great questions, everyone. Looks like we have something to talk about in the next segment. Right now, we're going to head to a commercial break. Get back.
I actually have a date next week. I guess we'll just have to see how that goes.
Danny, you be having these back-to-back dates. Yo, where do you be finding these men? Just take your time and don't settle.
Girl, I finally have a man!
Girl, these men out here be faking. And this one honestly sounds like an idiot.
Yeah. But honestly, when is it going to be my time?
All right, we're back. So we had a pretty good wrap up, but we aren't complete with our discussion. So we left off talking about gender roles, right? And what makes a man and a woman a woman. Is it something that you're taught? So let's unpack that a little bit. So I know Davion, you were last speaking, so definitely want to hear from you.
Well, as I was saying before, I think manhood and womanhood is beyond what we carry. Can I say that? Genitals? Okay. I think a man and a woman is beyond what we carry, like on us, genitals. It's something deeper. Something that was taught. Like you were taught how to be a man. You were taught how to be a woman.
Okay. Interesting. You know, it's funny when this came up and I was just reviewing what we're gonna be talking about today. I saw gender roles and I said, I want to stay very far away from gender roles, mainly because I don't put people in gender roles. Because when I think of marriage and I think of traditional versus non-traditional or modern, as you'd say, I think of functionality, right? Like to me, it's not really about the man or the woman. It's about who's performing a specific function in the marriage to carry the marriage forward. Because really, that's what it comes down to. Like it doesn't really matter if the man is doing all the work or if he's staying at home or vice versa. What matters is the support system that's in place and who's functionally doing the things that matter to continue to move the family forward. I think that's maybe a different way to look at it than just this is what a man's supposed to do versus what a woman's supposed to do, right? Like even if we think about, you know, going out to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Like if you both sit there and let's say I don't got enough money, but you really like me, I really like you, like you want to pay for it, that moves the relationship forward. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know if that's traditional. I don't know if women want to hear that, but yeah, I'll stop talking now because
like your question.
So, well, I just want to piggyback off what you said first in the sense of kind of like not having the gender role boundary, but are we being taught that in the household? Are we learning that relationship? Are we teaching that to our kids? Is that something that we're lacking or that we're missing and everybody's just like, oh, I see a woman do that, or I see a man do that, I see daddy do that, or I see mommy do that. And it's like, okay, are they really learning? Are we having the conversations to make sure they understand, okay, you know what, if I don't got it, mommy got it. Mommy don't got it, daddy got it. I'll make sure I provide as us being in a marriage, as us being a couple, as us being a household, because everybody's got to eat. Right. I'm not gonna leave her hanging if we go out on a date and she's washing dishes and I'm like, well, I'll see you next date. No, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna make sure she's good, you know. So I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to add.
Well, yeah, the main thing with marriages is when two become one. Mm-hmm. So now y'all are one now. Mm-hmm. So when we're dividing and I have my account over here and this is me over here, you're not doing. It's like we're putting people against each other when we should be coming together. Mm-hmm. So we have one account. This is us now. It's not me versus you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I got a question for y'all, right? I'm going to go to Ryan first because the many women he has dated in our lifetime. I'm sure he has a good response because I'm just thinking about when it comes to these dates, right? And the woman is expecting you to pay.
Right, yeah.
Do you feel that that should be implemented with gender role or it shouldn't be and whoever can pay?
So are you still coming to me first?
Yeah, you do first. Right. For your expertise.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I gotta give my expertise since the many of women as Lance would call it. But I mean I've been on a couple dates, right? And on the dates that I've been on, I think the expectation is for me to pay. Right? I've been on dates that I wasn't asked on, right? Like, hey, but the expectation is still for me to pay. I've been on multiple dates with the same person, and the expectation is still for me to pay.
Do you think?
So hold on. So if we talk, I gotta put this out. We're talking gender roles, right? I think if we don't want to have gender roles, then the expectation can't be the same for the gender that you want to place them on, right? Okay. But if you have an expectation for someone to do something, then maybe you're operating in gender roles more than you think, right? So all I can say is from my experience, I've never been on a date and the expectation was not for me to pay, right? So
does that bother you?
Does it bother me? No, it doesn't bother me because I'm used to it, right? Like I'm accustomed to if I go on a date, I know I got enough money in my account to pay.
Right. If she reached for the check first, you wouldn't hesitate at it. Like, oh, okay.
No. That I would say, I got it.
You
and then if she can't, like again, so actually, I can't. Can I be honest?
Okay.
I can't speak on that because, like I said, it hasn't happened to me. Every day I go on, I'm expecting
yeah,
it.
you expect it back. I was going back to my first question I was going to ask because, and I'm not trying to put a damper or categorize any of the women that you dealt with, but since this has been a continuous thing of the woman is expecting you to pay, do you think that you paying for her meal, or you paying when you guys go to the movies, or you paying putting gas in her cars, that it's being reduced to just maybe like sexual gratification of you paying for something than just your time? Like, what if you weren't paying for it? What if you guys went on a walk? You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that.
Yeah. I think if we went on a walk when it got time to eat, it wouldn't work out. Like the expectation literally is for me to pay for things, not just me. I'm talking about when I say me, I'm men, right?
Right.
Like the expectation generally is for men to pay. Now there's plenty of situations where women will say, "Hey, I'll pay." Not saying that's not the case, but I think more often than not, a man will enter a situation like that. I don't know if it has to do anything. I don't know why that's the expectation. I think it's just a norm, you know. But that, to me, that goes back to gender roles. And I think if we're going to really say we want to advance and move forward and be one, we can't have these isolation or these specific times we apply gender roles and then times that we don't. Like, it's like you can't pick and choose when you're going to apply gender roles, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. I mean, I feel like men and women do this, but I feel like a lot of women like to pick and choose when they want gender role and when they don't. So I saw a funny post on Instagram, you know, where they're talking about we may go to war, we may not. And then they put a woman up there, they said, "Oh, I don't believe in equality anymore. Put me in the kitchen."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, when it's a positive thing that can be beneficial for a man or a woman, then they say, "Oh, you know, I want this gender role." But then when it's something that isn't positive for them, then they don't want it.
Right.
Yeah, I just think we can't operate in convenience, right? Like, a lot of times people just operate and do things when it's convenient for them. It's literally like everything should be give and take.
How do we change like the outlook on gender roles? Like, what's the first step to a different perspective?
I mean, I think a man has to be willing to give up that feeling of I'm expected to do this or that. That would definitely matter. And then obviously on the other side, I think there do have to be more women that say, you know what, if I don't believe in gender roles, then why can't I do this and make it okay? By no means am I saying like I'm upset about it. I'm just saying I think that's how the change comes.
Right.
So
And I say, you know, just honesty up front, transparency up front early on.
Yeah.
And feel comfortable having conversations early on when you're getting to know someone.
No, for sure. And love languages, right? Like, once you understand people's love languages, then I think the gender roles start to break down even more.
Most definitely.
Because you do certain things for that person based on their love language, aside from the gender role, right? So some people actually just like to eat out. So to have a wife, or even if you're on the reverse, to have a wife to have a husband that is good at cooking. If that's not something you like, if it doesn't bring you don't want to be in the house eating, then going out to eat is a new thing that you have to both adopt for things to work, right? So, I think love language is very important. Understanding each other's love languages matter as well.
Well, unfortunately, that is all we have today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow the Girl Code TV series on Instagram for more updates. Make sure you stay tuned on YouTube to check out the next episode. Follow all the social medias below. We'll see you next time.
I can't breathe. You've been a real one. Flashing back 2013. Took all to been my baby CD. Still wanna know, what do they know? Is it facts? Is it